pilot waving to you guys then. Pulled some strings. Okay guys, so this is another video for our Pilots in Japan playlist, in case you hadn't guessed. So there's some news recently that the Department of Land, Infrastructure, Transport and Tourism, that controls the aviation industry, plans to, so it hasn't happened yet, but usually when they start talking about things that are planned to happen or talking about happening or something, usually it means it probably will, that they're going to make it easier for foreign pilots to get Japanese pilot's licenses. Talking about ATPL and CPL, commercial pilot licenses, not necessarily private pilot licenses. So, been a bit busy here today. Let's watch him take off. So that's Fuji Dream Airlines. It's very busy domestic carrier. So we're at Komaki Airport in Nagoya, central Japan. So last year they actually made it possible for pilots to convert their foreign licenses to Japanese licenses online. So of course you have to meet all the prerequisites, of course, right? So when I did it years ago, it was all paper and lots of paper, and you have to have everything that they need to convince them that that you're qualified to get their license. And for commercial pilots, it used to include flight tests. So even if they had a high number of hours and were checked out in another country for a certain type of aircraft, they had to do a flight test in Japan, which obviously was expensive. So, excuse me a moment. Noisy thing, helicopters, aren't they? Fighting to stay in the air. So, obviously, before when COVID first started, horrible things. When COVID first started, obviously, the airlines just died because people couldn't fly anywhere, and a lot of pilots got laid off. So what's happening now is, because Japan's opening up again and everybody's moving around again, they need pilots, and they haven't got enough Japanese pilots for the Japanese aviation companies. So they need foreign pilots, basically. They've always had foreign pilots. In 2 years ago, they had the Japanese airlines had 517 foreign pilots. January this year, they only had 231. So obviously they laid off a lot of them. I would guess the foreign pilots got laid off before the Japanese ones did. Just guessing. So basically, to convert from your commercial pilot license in your own country to a Japanese commercial pilot license, you needed to do a flight test. But they're talking about changing that all you need to do, if you've got the appropriate amount of qualifications for that particular aircraft, and you're already flying that particular aircraft, that you might just need to do a flight simulator test, which obviously is going to be really good news for a lot of commercial pilots, because it's going to make it that much cheaper for them. So they also might be lightening up a little bit on the medical requirements for pilots over 60, so that older pilots can continue to fly without quite as stringent medical tests required. Noisy, isn't it? Helicopters. Here, I'll turn you around, one sec. Terrible. Terrible way to fly in the sky. Very inefficient, helicopters. There's actually more helicopters in Japan than there are light aircraft. So just because of the terrain and the size of the place. So yeah, that's basically the bottom line, and it might be a good sign for those people, I get contacted by people a lot wanting to know about the commercial pilot licenses and the private ones, but people that want to come fly in Japan, often because there's not a lot of information on the internet. So we've got a few videos on our pilots in Japan playlist, so people contact me quite a bit. So that's good news, that you won't need to have actual flight test in an aircraft if you're already qualified for that aircraft, maybe just a flight simulator test. Of course, you still have to meet all the requirements of the airline. So whatever their minimum hours are and whatever their qualifications and experience requirements are, you still have to meet all that. Obviously, if you want to check on that, just get onto the website of particular airlines and have a look for yourself. The FDA Fuji Dream Airline has a variety. They're all different colours, their aircraft, green and pink and red and orange. So that's about it. So it's sort of good news for those people who have been wanting to try and get to fly here, because it might be getting easier. There's a few things they didn't talk about. One was there's a law test. Some of you remember years and years ago I had to go and do the law test at Tokyo University. Fortunately they had an English version, so I could do that. And the other one is the radio license. That's a hard one. That's a big hurdle, that one, because I only had that one in Japanese as well. Although I believe if you go through some airlines, they will help you do the test in English, which is sort of silly, because the easiest part of flying an aeroplane is obviously the radio license. But when it came for me to actually convert from my Australian commercial license to a Japanese license, the biggest hurdle was the radio. That was the hardest, because it was all in Japanese. And all the written test was all in Japanese, which was really difficult and sort of ironic, considering the language we use on the radio here is English. Sometimes they use Japanese with us, but they have to be able to use English as well. That's the international law, aviation law, so they have to be able to speak English to us. So we use English to speak on the radio, but the actual test was in Japanese. Whole video on that if you're interested in that. So anyway, that's about it. There's occasionally pilots will actually contact me and ask me for specific information. I sort of help them if I can, but it's huge and I'm not really the right person to help people get their licenses. So the information I've got, I give you on that playlist, and that's pretty much all I've got. I don't have much else. There's no secret information that I have. So anyway, that's it. This guy's going to take off in a second, so I'll spin you guys around so you can have a look. It's sort of interesting. The other side there's all the self-defense force aircraft. We showed you Komaki before, and jets and C-170s, C-160s, C-130s, that's what they are. Here we go, there they go. More videos coming soon. See the castle up on the hill? How cool is it flying from an airport where you fly past a castle when you leave? How cool is that? There's a castle over there, and there's a volcano over here, which you won't be able to see today. It's just not quite clear enough, but there's a volcano over there. So just about everything I've talked about on this video, we've already made videos about on the pilots playlist. So see all the military aircraft over there? Just a bit of a side note, just had a C-130 emergency here. They closed the airport for an hour, and after he landed, don't know what his problem was. They had to walk the runway, or check the runway for pieces. So they must have had some fairly major problem. So this is Komaki Airport, central Japan. There's all the hangars, the firefighters hangar and the police hangar. Various hangars. There's a aviation museum there with people watching us through the window. Hello. Aircraft we flew today. And that's that story. The tower over there. Oh, that was explosive thing that scares off birds. Anyway, that was that. More videos coming soon.